Here are 5 mistakes that you do not want to make if you want distance on your backhand throw. The first is what I call a forearm push, or not developing a swing. This is one of the first obstacles that players face, as it develops very early on in the early stages of the rounds as you're learning the game. When the body, hips, and shoulders are still open towards the target with little to no rotation and forgetting to swing it and only using the forearm to push. This develops into problems later on if you don't develop a swing early on. The swing actually requires some rotation and a much further reach back, almost all the way. And you enter something what is called the power pocket, and you use the body's levers to end up swinging using only the forearm and the wrist as an extension. This brings us to number 2, not using the hips and shoulders and other parts of your body like the legs to power the shot, and do something what we call the arming instead, where you use only the arm. It's one thing to learn the positioning and learn how to get in correct positioning, and a whole nother thing to apply it instead. Most players are still stuck in between because they think that the positioning is all they need, but you need to learn how to apply the hips and shoulders first before the arm and get away from just applying the arm. Try and forget arming and learn how to graduate away from the arm and slowly graduate to different parts of your body and learn how to power with those instead, and eventually try and work to the legs and the hips. This brings us to number 3, do not overlook your footwork, because footwork gets your body in the correct positioning for correct body push and correct hip engagement. I'll get you started with the 2 most common issues, the X step and the plant foot. And in case you don't know, the X step is 3 steps. 1, 2, you make a cross with your legs, an X, and then 3 into your plant foot to swing. So the X step and the plant foot are the 2 mistakes I see that prevent 90% of players from distance in a corrective X step. Where a lot of players go wrong here is it's too wide or it's overturned. This needs to be very compact and minimal for an effective transfer, and just as well not overturn and no more than 90 degrees to also help get an effective push. And remember, you want to push into the plant foot, you don't want to drop in, which is what most players start doing. And with the plant foot, the most common mistakes with the dropping of the foot is it's either too straight and not staggering, or they're preemptively opening their hips before planting, which can be shown with an overturned foot pointing forward. It should be 90 degrees or a little less, and keep note this happens because of opening the hips and starting the swing too soon before planting, and can be fixed with a later swing or rotation. This brings us to number 4, which is a common mistake I see even advanced players making at 400 feet, and that is not preloading enough or preloading soon enough. Preloading is the steps and movements leading up to the swing, which is way more important than people think and way more specific than people think, as it is loading all the power potential into your swing as you try and get in the correct positioning. And as said, most issues are not preloading soon enough or preloading enough, but also keep note you can rotate too far and lean back too far. So the goal is to not lean back, but also most likely you're going to want to preload sooner and a little further than you think. And last but not least, number 5, getting your grip correct and getting nose down. Nose down is huge for distance, and a normal natural wrist is nose up. So starting out, that's the biggest obstacle for distance, because it throws nose up, catches a lot of wind, lifts up, and just drops distance instead of carrying forward. The thing is the wrist needs to be trained nose down and needs to be applied throughout the throw. And the grip that you do is going to help aid that. Your goal is to put it in between the crease of your palm and the knuckles of your middle finger and index finger. Now as you wrap this index finger around, it's very important to make sure that this knuckle, the index knuckle, stays on top of the flight plate, because that helps ensure nose down. The next goal is to make sure that all fingers are in contact on the rim. And then the thumb is going to apply pinching power just inside the rim, and pinching power to apply to these 3 fingers and leading up to the index finger. To apply nose down, it's a wrist engagement, and I like to call it handing somebody a pen. And I have a pen right here, so if you hand somebody a pen like that, that's nose down. Where it's like our normal wrist is like this, so you're looking for that. Normal wrist, you're looking for that. Handing somebody a pen. Apply that in a similar way with the disc, and make sure that you do that throughout the throw and on release. That's the kicker, as a lot of people will do that fix when they're engaging the throw and when they power, but when they power to throw, it falls untrained because they're no longer focusing on it. And it doesn't matter if you're nose down on your reach back, but you're going to throw nose up. So the big kicker there is to just make sure you're throwing nose down throughout and on release. So you're going to have to kind of focus and train your wrist and apply it for a little bit. Nose up, nose down, nose up, nose down, nose up, nose down, nose up, nose down. You know what, I just thought about it because it was on the list but I didn't put it in there, but I got 6 for you, and that is if you end up developing a swing and you try and learn the levers and learning how to power with the body, Make sure you don't pull through the hips. A lot of people think you pull through the hips, but that drops the elbow. The swing is actually higher. You want to come across the chest, around the pectoral area. Most mistakes are way too low and they want to raise their swing. So you want to raise that, make sure you're swinging through the chest, pectoral area. Don't drop it through the hips. A lot of people do that, and that is a big distance killer, and it causes a lot of nose up issues because the swing starts here, swings down, and then comes back up. So that middle section, you want to end up getting the swing a little higher. Hopefully this video helps you guys out. Happy to do this again. See you in the next one.